In early 1994, the ready-to-eat (RTE) breakfast cereal industry was at a critical turning point. Historically characterized by stability and above-average profitability, the industry faced new challenges with slowing demand growth and a surge in private label sales. These factors threatened the dominant positions of the Big Three: Kellogg, General Mills, and Philip Morris. The year-end statistics for 1993 showed that industry sales growth had slowed to under 2%, while private labels had reached over 5% market share by sales and 9% by volume for the first time. Price increases by the Big Three had widened the gap between branded and private label products, leading to increased competition. History of the RTE breakfast cereal industry. The RTE breakfast cereal industry began in 1894 when Dr. John Kellogg and his brother W.K. Kellogg invented wheat cereal flakes. They aimed to make whole grains appealing to the vegetarian clients of the Seventh-day Adventist Sanitarium Dr. Kellogg ran in Battle Creek, Michigan. W.K. Kellogg later invented the corn flake and founded the Kellogg Company, which remains the leading producer of ready-to-eat cereals. In the same year, Henry D. Perky, founder of Perky's Shredded Wheat Company, promoted his cereal at the 1894 World's Fair in Boston. His shredded wheat became the flagship brand for Nabisco after he sold his company in 1928. C.W. Post, a patient of Dr. Kellogg's, introduced Post's grape-nuts in 1898, which became known for its early advertisements claiming health benefits. By 1994, Philip Morris had acquired both the Post and Nabisco lines of RTE cereals. The Quaker Oats Company diversified from hot cereals into the RTE market by introducing puffed rice and puffed wheat cereals at the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis. By the early 20th century, the predecessors of the Kellogg, Quaker, and Philip Morris cereal lines, which collectively accounted for 59% of 1993 RTE sales by volume, had been established. Growth and innovation. Sales of RTE cereals grew steadily throughout the 20th century, with a compound average annual volume growth rate of 3% between 1950 and 1993. Innovations like vitamin fortification during World War II, pre-sweetening in the 1950s, and the popularity of granola and natural cereals in the 1970s and 80s fueled this growth. By 1993, the U.S. market consumed 2.82 billion pounds of cereal, grossing nearly $8 billion in sales for breakfast cereal manufacturers. Market concentration and antitrust issues. The RTE cereal industry had historically been one of the most concentrated in the U.S., with firm market shares showing great persistence. The largest cereal manufacturers were extremely profitable, routinely posting returns on assets for their cereal divisions in the 15–30% range. However, this profitability attracted no significant new entrants, leading to increased market concentration. In 1972, the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, filed a major antitrust suit against Kellogg, General Mills, and General Foods, then the maker of the Post line. The FTC argued that the leading RTE cereal manufacturers had jointly monopolized the market. The case was based on the concentration and high profitability of the industry, not on specific actions by the firms. The FTC believed that the firms had effectively raised industry profitability by restraining competition and deterring new entrants. Strategies to limit competition. Industry observers argued that the Big Three had restrained competition through unwritten agreements to limit in-pack premiums, free toys or gifts included in cereal packages, to one brand at a time for each company, and to refrain from trade dealing, offering discounts to retailers for special promotions. Additionally, the Big Three avoided widespread vitamin fortification of their brands for many years to maintain industry profitability. These practices were seen as tools to increase a firm's market share temporarily at the expense of competitors, but the Big Three feared they would initiate a cycle of escalating costs and reduced profitability. The FTC also argued that the Big Three had prevented entry into the RTE cereal industry by encouraging supermarkets and other retailers to adopt a shelf space plan that ensured their products received the most valued positions. This plan allocated space in proportion to historical sales volume, making it difficult for new, smaller companies to obtain good shelf space without offering significant discounts. The proliferation of new brands. The FTC argued that the proliferation of new brands by the Big Three filled all profitable niches in the cereal market, preempting the introduction of new cereals by potential competitors. The natural cereals boom of the early 1970s demonstrated this, as small firms and large food manufacturers entered the market when demand for natural cereals surged unexpectedly. However, within 5 years, incumbent firms introduced their own natural cereal brands, and all but one of the new entrants had withdrawn. The FTC suit continued for nearly 10 years before being dropped in 1981 after President Reagan's election. Industry environment in the 1990s. Technology. The production methods for ready-to-eat (RTE) cereals in the 1990s were well established. Of the 5 basic methods used, 4, granulation, flaking, shredding, and puffing, had been in use since 1905. The extrusion process, introduced commercially in 1941 with General Mills Cheerios, involved pressing dough through a die to form the desired shape before baking. Production processes. The production of a flake cereal started with the automated combination of raw ingredients to produce dough, which was then flaked by drum rollers. The flakes traveled on a conveyor through a continuous flake toaster and tumbled through a rotating slurry enrober containing ingredients like salt, sugar, honey, and vitamins. Finally, the flakes were dried and moved to packaging lines. For puffed or extruded cereals, the process was similar, but instead of flaking by rollers, the dough was pneumatically puffed or forced through shaped dies before baking. While the fundamentals of these processes were simple and well understood, some, particularly the extrusion processes used in many children's cereals, required substantial engineering expertise and production experience. Some plants produced cereal in bulk and shipped it to packaging lines closer to distribution points. A single cereal production line had a capacity of about 25 million pounds per year. To achieve minimum efficient scale, a plant needed a capacity of 75 million pounds per year and employed about 125 employees with a capital investment of over $100 million. A single plant could produce many brands of cereal due to the similar production processes across different cereals. For example, General Mills plant built in 1992 produced multiple brands like Cheerios, Honey Nut Cheerios, Total, and Wheaties. Research and development. In 1993, the RTE cereal industry spent about 1% of gross sales, $80 million, on R&D, compared to the food industry average of 0.7%. The main challenges for cereal scientists were keeping cereal crispy in milk and preventing flakes from becoming soggy due to moisture from added fruit. Solutions included coating the fruit with a thin layer of fat to trap moisture. Some new products embodied technological advances. For instance, Post's Blueberry Morning, introduced in 1994, had a unique method for preserving blueberries that was not widely known. General Mills Ripple Crisps featured a new kind of flake with ridges that prevented milk absorption and preserved crispiness. However, many new products simply offered different shapes, colors, flavors, or combinations of existing ingredients. Distribution. Major RTE cereal manufacturers owned national distribution systems. Cereal was manufactured at or shipped to regional distribution centers, where it was picked up by major supermarket chains and taken to their own distribution centers and stores. Wholesalers and food brokers provided the final link for other outlets and smaller food stores. Shelf space and slotting allowances. The fight for shelf space in food stores was crucial. From 1950 to the FTC investigation period, the number of brands tripled from 26 to 80, and by 1994, a typical supermarket carried nearly 200 SKUs. Prime shelf space became more important as the number of RTE cereal brands expanded. Securing shelf space for a new brand required payment of a slotting allowance, which could add up to $1 million to the cost of nationally introducing a new brand. While large cereal firms were not exempt from this policy, they had more flexibility in reallocating space among their brands. Efficient Customer Response Initiative. In the 1990s, as part of the Efficient Customer Response Initiative, ECR, major cereal manufacturers increased efforts to tailor distribution to customer needs, using scanner data to manage inventories. Non-supermarket food sales were expected to grow from 5% in 1993 to 10% by 1996 and 20% by 2000, driven by the expansion of national discount retailers into supercenters, massive stores combining supermarkets, general discount retailers, and specialty retailers. Market presence in non-supermarket outlets. More food was also being sold through drugstores, convenience stores, and discount retailers like Walmart. Shelf space in these outlets was less entrenched than in supermarkets, allowing startup value-oriented brands to gain market presence without slotting allowances. While the Big Three accounted for 75.6% of sales in food stores, their market share in mass merchandisers was only 41.3%. Advertising, promotions, and pricing. The RTE breakfast cereal industry was a powerhouse in advertising and promotions during the 1990s. In 1993, media expenditures for the industry topped $800 million, making up over a quarter of all food industry advertising. This industry had always been among the most advertising intensive, with an advertising-to-sales ratio reaching as high as 18.5% in the 1960s. By 1993, this ratio had decreased to 10.2%, still significantly higher than most consumer products businesses. Advertising intensity. Advertising was especially intense during the introduction of new products. For instance, recent launches such as Kellogg's Cinnamon Mini Buns and General Mills Triples and Basic 4 averaged $20 million in first-year advertising expenditures. These significant advertising investments were necessary to capture consumer attention and drive initial sales. Pricing strategies. The RTE cereal industry was characterized by regular rounds of price increases, usually initiated by Kellogg and followed by other branded cereal manufacturers. These price hikes were often justified to analysts as necessary to fund promotions and advertising, a strategy known as price up and spend back. This approach allowed companies to maintain high visibility and consumer engagement through sustained advertising efforts. Coupon usage. In addition to being a leader in advertising, the RTE cereal industry was the top issuer of coupons, and this reliance on coupons was growing. In 1993, cereal manufacturers issued over 25 billion coupons, a 35% increase over 2 years. The costs associated with printing, distributing, redeeming, and reimbursing grocers' handling fees amounted to $610 million, in addition to the $800 million spent on media advertising. Despite only about 2% of coupons being redeemed, over a quarter of all cereal purchases were made with coupons. By 1994, the average value of redeemed coupons had risen to 87 cents. Trade promotions. Other forms of trade promotions were also becoming more prevalent. These included per-case discounts to retailers and cash payments for special in-store promotions and cooperative advertising. One of the most common and costly trade promotions were buy one get one free offers, known as BOGOs. Through aggressive use of trade promotions, a single firm could achieve a 2–3% gain in market share by swaying the most price-sensitive consumers. Market dynamics. However, neither coupons nor other forms of trade promotions were believed to significantly stimulate total cereal demand. Instead, these tactics led primarily to stockpiling and brand switching among the most fickle consumers. The competitive nature of price promotions drove RTE cereal prices up 15.6% from 1990 to 1993, compared to a 5.9% increase in overall food prices. Cereal prices regularly outpaced other consumer prices, leading to consumer dissatisfaction. In a 1994 market research survey, breakfast cereal was voted the no-contest worst value product winner. One consumer remarked, "Cereal prices are an obscenity. To take a genuinely basic food and make a luxury item out of it is an outrage, and not far from sinful." New product introductions. In the highly competitive RTE cereal industry, major firms continually introduced new products, either by creating entirely new brands or by extending existing ones. Developing a new brand was a lengthy and costly process, typically taking 2 to 4 years and requiring R&D expenditures of $5–10 million. On the other hand, brand extensions, such as General Mills' introduction of Apple Cinnamon Cheerios in 1989, were generally considered more likely to succeed. These extensions offered economies of scale in advertising and were technologically simpler to develop and produce since the basic process technology was already in place. Market fragmentation. The increasing rates of new product introductions led to a highly fragmented market for RTE cereals. In 1950, the 6 industry leaders offered only 26 brands, with Kellogg's Corn Flakes alone capturing 16% of the market. However, by the 1990s, the number of product introductions had increased so much that a brand capturing even a single market share point was considered a major hit. This high rate of new product introductions also resulted in a high rate of product failures. Co-branded cereals. One significant trend in the 1990s was the rise of co-branded cereals. These cereals were produced and distributed by one of the big three but relied on another company's brand name for distinctiveness. The 2 most highly touted product introductions of 1994 were co-branded cereals. For instance, Kellogg introduced a line of multi-grain cereals marketed as Healthy Choice from Kellogg's, leveraging the established Healthy Choice brand from Conagra. Similarly, General Mills introduced Reese's Peanut Butter Puffs, using the brand name of Hershey Foods' popular peanut butter and chocolate candy. Industry observers suggested that the increasing speed to market and the quality of private label products would drive more co-branded deals, as these products offered added brand equity that private labels could not easily counter. Extension into snack foods. Several companies attempted to extend the reach of the RTE cereal category into snack foods. For example, Ralston's Chex cereal had long been popular as a snack food, and several firms offered granola or other cereal snack bars. General Mills took this a step further with the introduction of Fingos in 1993. Packaged and marketed as a cereal, Fingos was designed to be eaten with fingers, making it the perfect commuter snack. The company even redesigned the box to accommodate a snacker's hand more easily than the traditional narrow cereal box. In early 1994, Kellogg introduced its own snack-oriented cereal, Rice Krispies Treats, further blurring the lines between breakfast cereals and snack foods. The private label threat. From 1991 to 1994, sales of private label cereals grew significantly, increasing by 50% to nearly $500 million. This accounted for 9.2% of all cereal sales by volume. Industry projections suggested that private label cereals would capture over 15% of the RTE cereal market by 2000. This growth trend was part of a broader shift in the grocery industry, where private label products were expected to grow from 19% to 30% of unit sales by 2000. Perception of threat. Despite these inroads, not everyone saw private label cereals as a serious threat to the profitability of branded manufacturers. A spokesperson from General Mills stated that while rising RTE cereal prices could create opportunities for private label brands, they did not consider them a significant threat to their specific brands. The primary appeal of private label cereals was their low price. On average, private label cereals sold for $1.90 per pound, which was 40% less than the average price of $3.20 per pound for the big three brands. Private labels did minimal advertising, focusing instead on promoting their price advantage. Retailer incentives. Private label cereals offered better margins to retailers, contributing to their promotion. Retailers typically earned 15% margins on private label cereals compared to 12% margins on branded cereals. This higher markup made private labels attractive to grocers, who found it easy to decide which products to promote. However, some industry experts argued that many retailers did not fully understand the overall costs of private labels, including warehousing, merchandising, and shrinkage, compared to national brands. Impact of coupons. The heavy use of coupons by branded cereals was blamed for the market share gains of private labels. Coupons eroded brand loyalty by encouraging price-sensitive consumers to switch brands. Additionally, failed extensions of popular brands further diminished the perception that branded products were superior. One industry consultant noted that failed brand extensions could undermine the overall brand's reputation. Quality improvements. In the early 1990s, the production and marketing of private label cereals underwent significant changes. Historically, private labels had suffered from poor quality and limited variety. However, technological advancements allowed private label manufacturers to produce cereals that rivaled branded products in quality. Despite this, private label cereals could still be produced at lower costs due to simpler production processes and less expensive ingredients. Some private labels also reduced packaging costs by selling cereals in clear plastic bags instead of traditional boxes. Distribution and market share. Private label cereals relied on wholesalers and third-party distributors for distribution, which helped keep costs low. These distributors earned about a 10% margin on the wholesale price but did not provide the extensive on-site presence of the Big Three's national sales forces. The Big Three companies publicly refused to produce private label cereals, with Kellogg even stating on their packages that they did not make cereals for anyone else. By 1994, Ralston, which once dominated the private label cereal market, had its share fall to about 50%. Other significant private label producers included Malt-O Meal, Gristmill, and McKee Baking. A turning point in August 1993, a significant shift began to take shape in the RTE cereal industry. For years, the industry had been characterized by a cycle of increasing prices and heavy promotions led by the Big Three: Kellogg, General Mills, and Post. However, the first indication that this cycle might be coming to an end appeared when Kellogg announced its third price increase of the year, a 2.1% hike that brought the total increase for the year to 6.2%. In a surprising move, General Mills declared that it had no plans for immediate price increases, signaling a potential change in the industry's usual pattern. Malt-O Meal's CEO echoed this sentiment, stating, "The era of price hikes is over. This is the first time the industry didn't move in lockstep. We think the price increases of the 1980s are history." Leadership changes at General Mills. In the following months, General Mills saw significant leadership changes, with Stephen Sanger taking over as head of the company and Charles Gaillard leading the Big G cereal division. Sanger had been vocal about the inefficiencies in the industry, particularly the excessive promotional spending. With new management in place, General Mills was prepared to make a bold move to address these issues. A bold strategy. In April 1994, General Mills announced a groundbreaking decision to cut $175 million from its trade promotions and couponing budget. Simultaneously, they planned to reduce prices on their biggest brands, which accounted for about 40% of their sales, by an average of 11%. Gaillard explained that the purpose of this move was to improve the profit performance of Big G. Sanger elaborated on the reasoning behind this strategy. The practice of pricing up and discounting back has become more and more inefficient for manufacturers and retailers, and burdensome for consumers. The money we were spending to print, distribute, and handle those additional coupons was not benefiting consumers. The 50 cents that the consumer saves by clipping a coupon can cost manufacturers as much as 75 cents. It just doesn't make sense. Industry implications. Sanger believed this move was not only beneficial for General Mills but for the entire industry. He stated, "This is a move that's good for General Mills and good for our industry. I would guess other manufacturers see the same wastefulness in coupon and other price promotions." General Mills' announcement sparked intense debate within the trade and financial communities. Brand Week highlighted the dramatic nature of the situation, likening it to a high-noon showdown between Kellogg and General Mills. The Cereal Industry Observer noted, "The two big gladiators are in the ring, with all the other little players ringside, and everybody else in the category jammed into the rest of the arena. In 3 to 6 months, one or the other's going to have lost. It shouldn't take any longer than that for one or the other of them to cave, with the others going the way of the winner." The aftermath. This strategic shift by General Mills marked a turning point in the RTE cereal industry. It challenged the long-standing norms of price increases and heavy promotions, pushing the industry towards a more sustainable and consumer-friendly approach. Whether Kellogg and other manufacturers would follow General Mills' lead remained to be seen, but the bold move by General Mills set the stage for significant changes in the competitive landscape of the RTE cereal market.